All right, so let's talk about the secret philosophy that built one of the biggest companies on the planet. And you know what? It doesn't start with some crazy algorithm or a grand vision. Nope, it starts with this: a simple desk. A desk made out of a door. Which leads to a pretty wild question, right? How on earth did a simple door, something you could literally just go buy at Home Depot, how did that become the foundation for a $2 trillion empire? Yeah, this much. $2 trillion. I mean, think about that. The contrast is it's insane. A cheap DIY desk on one hand, and a company with a valuation that has, what, 12 zeros? So what's the connection? How do you get from a door to all that? Well, it all starts with the object itself. Let's rewind the clock and really look at this thing, this legendary and kind of weird symbol, the door desk. Okay, so picture this. It's the mid-90s. Amazon is just this tiny little online bookstore. Its founder, Jeff Bezos, needs desks for his handful of employees. But instead of buying, actual office furniture, he goes down to a hardware store, finds the cheapest doors he can, buys a bunch of 4x4s, and just screws them together as legs. And that's it. That was your desk. Welcome to Amazon. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about saving a couple of bucks. Not at all. This was a statement. It was a deliberate move to build a certain kind of culture. See, everyone had one of these desks, from the brand new hire all the way up to Bezos himself. It was a physical, in-your-face reminder every single day of a principle that was being baked right into the company's DNA from day one. And that principle, it's frugality. But, and this is super important, we have to be clear about what Amazon means by that. It's not just about being cheap, it's way, way more strategic. Okay, so let's break this down. Being cheap is when you cut corners on everything and quality usually takes a nosedive. Frugality, Amazon style, is totally different. It's about being resourceful. It means asking one simple question before spending a single dollar: does this help the customer? If the answer is yes, you spend. If it's no, then it's waste. Fancy office chairs? Nope. Gourmet free lunches? Definitely not. It's all about obsessing over what the customer actually values. And you can hear the logic straight from the founder himself. Bezos basically saw frugality as a good thing, a constraint that forces you to be creative. When you can't just throw a pile of cash at every problem, you have no choice but to get smart. You have to invent your way out of the box. And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. The money they saved on stuff like desks didn't just sit in a bank account. Nope. Every single penny was plowed right back into things the customer would actually notice and love. Things like lower prices, faster shipping, a massive selection. Every dollar they didn't spend on a fancy office was a dollar they could use to make a customer happier. So you might be wondering, how does this idea, this door desk thing, go from being a quirky startup story to a full-blown operating system for a giant corporation? Well, it showed up everywhere. You saw it in the lack of fancy employee perks. It was in the structure of their teams, the famous 2-pizza teams, small enough that you could feed the whole group with 2 pizzas. Expense reports? You better believe they were checked and double-checked. For years, employees even had to pay for their own office parking. The whole point was to constantly reinforce this one idea: do more with less. Then get this. This wasn't just some casual, hey, let's save money vibe. It was written down, codified. Frugality is one of Amazon's official leadership principles. That means to this day, you get hired, you get reviewed, you get promoted based on how well you demonstrate this. It's not a suggestion, it's a job requirement. Okay, so we've seen the symbol, the desk, and we've seen the system, the leadership principle. Now for the big question: what was the payoff? How did all this lead to that massive $2 trillion number? Just think about it for a second. What happens when you apply that kind of intense discipline? Not just for a few months or a year, but for decade after decade, 25 plus years. What does that kind of relentless focus get you? Where does it lead? It leads right back here, to $2 trillion. See, that number isn't some accident or a lucky break. It's the direct result of millions of small, frugal decisions adding up, compounding, year after year. That discipline gave them the power to consistently undercut competitors on price, while pouring all those savings into huge new bets. And the biggest bet of all? Amazon Web Services. And you can really see that compounding effect right here on this timeline. They go public in '97, and then it's just this relentless climb. But look at the 2010s. That's when AWS, which was basically built on the back of their own super efficient, frugal infrastructure, just explodes. It became a profit powerhouse. That frugal engine funded literally everything else and fueled the insane growth that eventually blew past that $2 trillion mark. But the story isn't quite that simple. And that brings us to our final thought here, something we can call the frugality paradox.
Because here's the question that people, critics, former employees, even insiders, are asking now. Does a mindset that was absolutely genius for a tiny, scrappy startup still work when you're one of the biggest, most powerful companies on the planet? I mean, when you're raking in billions of dollars in profit every 3 months, is cutting back on perks still resourceful, or is it just plain cheap?
And that brings us right back to where we started, the door desk. On one hand, you can't deny it. It's a symbol of the creative, customer-first genius that built an empire. But on the other hand, maybe it's also a warning sign, a reminder that the very same ideas that make you successful can become your biggest weakness if you never stop to question them. So what do you think? Is it a symbol of genius or a warning?